Welcome to Who You Know with Michael Sublett of Odd Moe's Pizza and Arthur Meeker of Extreme Graphics. We're shining the spotlight on businesses right here in the Pacific Northwest, celebrating their growth, their networking wins, and the impact they make in their communities. From small town gems to big community players, this is where connection meets inspiration.
Today we have Pat Zajac,
That's
the
me.
Marion Berries GM.
Yes,
Right?
sir.
Does that mean you're like ownership of the team or just run the whole thing?
No, I'm just in charge of the day-to-day, so I'm pretty much the circus master, the ringleader of all the chaos
I like that.
all throughout the season. So, yeah, I mean, we've got a great ownership group. Luke Emanuel is our primary owner. He was born and raised in Salem here. This was kind of his vision to bring, started as an inspiration just to build turf fields and have more turf access for baseball and softball in the Salem community. And now it's, built into this larger dream of not only having, a summer collegiate wood bat league team where we can do family friendly entertainment and host baseball games and all sorts of theme nights and giveaways and all that sort of thing. But I'm just in charge of the day to day and putting that dream into a reality, basically.
So did you come from a system that was similar to this that you can kind of just, program it in? Or is this like pretty fresh for you? Like it's just being thrown at you and you're trying to figure out how to manage it? And
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a big baseball guy. I played it all growing up through high school and one glorious semester in college before my shoulder blew out and the dream died. But the dream needed to die at the time it did anyways. And so I figured after that time, why not try and be involved in baseball as much as I possibly could be afterwards. And so I went to the University of Oregon. I interned with the Eugene Emeralds minor league baseball team during that time and did a good enough job to get hired on full time after that, and was with that organization for close to 10 years. And that's what kind of led me to this role here in Salem as the GM of the Marion Berries. So trying to bring that same sort of vibe, right? Because in Eugene, we were very much known for all of the, promotions and marketing things that we did and making games feel like more than just a baseball game. And how can we create theme nights that connect with the community and do things that get us noticed and recognized and, throw ideas up against the wall and see what sticks.
yeah, I saw you got a Star Wars one.
Oh yeah, we got
And you have
Star
Lego.
Wars night. We have 3 different Lego giveaway nights this year where, each minifigure that we give away to the first 300 kids is going to be a different uniform set of ours. We partner with Bricks and Beyond here in town to produce those. And so we've also got hat giveaways, a replica jersey giveaway on the 4th of July. We've got drone shows, fireworks show this season. So really trying to pack things and, like I said, make our games feel like a community event that just so happens to have baseball going on in the background.
Yeah.
And a new stadium, right?
And a new stadium. Well, yeah, all the renovations going in. So we played at Chemeketa last season, which was, a whole big deal in and of itself. A big pivot for us, obviously, because initially when I took the job, we were going to be playing at Willamette University at Bush Park, and that was our plan. And then 5 weeks before
Yeah, I
our
was
first
gonna say,
game, we had to pivot because the stadium wasn't going to be ready at all for our first season. And, canceling our season or not playing games just wasn't an option for us. We had, partners that had already invested in the team. We had tickets sold. We had a lot of community buy-in. And so we had to pivot on the fly. And kudos to Chemeketa. We met with their administration, like I said, 5 weeks before our first game was scheduled to be played, and met with their CFO, their president, their athletic director, facilities, basically everyone involved in the decision. And I thought they were going to laugh us out of the room when we told them, hey, we need a place to play 30 games in like 47 days, because initially we had postponed our first 9 home games of the season to account for some of the construction delays that we were being, communicated with at Willamette and everything like that, only to find out that we couldn't play there at all. And so we had this super truncated schedule where we were playing, I think we closed the stretch of the season last year with 20 games in 27 days or something like that. And so, kudos to Chemeketa, rather than laugh us out of the room and say, no, this isn't possible, they said, what do we need to do to make it happen? And so we met with them on It was a 4 p.m. meeting on a Friday. I remember it like it was yesterday. And by 8 a.m. Monday morning, there were like 6 different construction crews out there, their own facility staff building and constructing new bleachers, putting in a new sound system, working on some different electrical improvements that we could make happen in that time frame. New LED lights that went in because I don't think Chemeketa had their lights operational at the baseball field since the pandemic, I think. So I know it was a number of years. And so all of that happened in about 3.5 weeks to
I've run
get
into
done in time.
I've run into a couple of guys down there. They're like has a lot of energy down there, a lot of high energy. But
Absolutely. And no disrespect to Chemeketa, what the first time that myself and our owner Luke Emanuel met, and we kind of we walked around and kind of let ourselves into a couple of different fields and stadiums around the area just to see what was going to be a viable possibility for us. And when we went to Chemeketa, we let ourselves in. Like the gate was locked, but it was really easy to kind of jimmy it open. And so we went in there without any sort of prior approval or anything like that. I can say that out loud now because we have a good relationship with them. But, we kind of met in the parking lot afterwards, and he was like, "So what do you think?" And I'm like, "Man, I don't know, this is going to be tough." Just, knowing what the stadium looked like at the time, it had seating for about 300 people, half of which were in these old rotting wooden bleachers that I'm pretty sure were condemned by the county. So certainly not, the sort of scenario that we felt comfortable putting fans in, no less. And so just for me, having never been a part of a construction process of that sort of scope that also had to take place in such a very short amount of time, I just didn't know if it was going to be possible, and certainly not to the vision that we had sort of promised folks with the whole Willamette project and everything, right? So, but in that time frame, we were able to add about 1,000 new seats in that time frame to get to a seating capacity around 1,200 last season. We've since added now, as part of the renovations that I'm sure we'll get into going into this season, another about 700, 800 seats as well, with plenty of room still for standing room only, general admission seating and that sort of thing.
Well, your interest is basically dirt and gravel.
Pretty much.
And now you guys have done all that new concrete work out there and stuff.
Yeah, and
that
really was the challenge too going in, not just to get ready in time for our first game, but how do we also make it usable and enjoyable for fans once they were in. It was kind of, you had 3.5 weeks of heavy machinery and construction equipment just beating up all the areas outside of the field. It was tough for me to coordinate of okay, we do all of our concessions in-house and everything else in-house, right? And so I'm trying to figure out with all of these different construction and electrical contractors of okay, when can we move in our stuff to get ready, right? Because, you've got these big rigs going on to put up the new LED lights and the new speaker system and everything like that. And so, it was a wild process. And then right after that, we went into, like I said, the 30 games and 46-day stretch where we averaged 1,100 people a game in our first season. And so all of those folks walking around, trampling the grass and dirt and everything, we kind of created a small dust bowl towards the end of the season. But nonetheless, I think the thing that we're most proud of and I'm most proud of is the experience was what we wanted it to be in terms of being that community event that just so happened to have baseball.
Between your blowing your sholdder out and having to pivot there, then you come in here and have to pivot here and stuff. You're like a lemon to lemonades kind of guy.
Absolutely. I've learned as I've gotten older, especially now having 2 kids of my own, and we've got a 5-month-old newborn that's our youngest, so that'll present another challenge for me personally going into this summer.
Life,
yeah, exactly. And so, kudos to my wife. She's been with me throughout my entire baseball career in the industry and understands what it entails. And, we always joke we've never really had a summer together because not only do I work in baseball, and that's our peak time, she works for an alcohol service company here in town, Oregon Beverage Services, and they do pretty much every single county fair and festival in Oregon and Washington during the summer. And so just a lot of, communication back and forth between us, who's got what going on any given weekday or weekend. And
You're on kid duty.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I always joke that's why my kids are like the de facto assistant GMs at the ballpark because, they're with me in tow. And, Zach, our oldest, he turns 3 next month. And so he loves going to the games and going down on the field, high-fiving the players, taking the Fun Zone inflatables all to his own before gates open and going down the slide a few times and that sort of thing. So it really is like, I couldn't do it if I didn't have that support of my wife and family to do it.
God, you guys picked a superstar name, dude. Zach Zajac.
I really vouched hard for his middle name also to be Jack because I wanted to be Zach Jack Zajac, but she didn't go for that one. But somehow I snuck in, his middle name is Fielder, and somehow I snuck in a baseball-related middle name that she loved. So at least got that one.
Did she catch on to that right away? Or?
Not really. Truthfully, we didn't really have a middle name picked out or anything like that. It was kind of last minute, a few weeks before he was born, where we were just Googling middle names for babies and that sort of thing.
That's
and
funny.
I just kind of half jokingly threw out the name Fielder, and she's like, "Yeah, I actually kind of like that." I'm like, "Really?" Because I obviously love it as a baseball guy.
Yeah,
so,
you love that.
Yeah, not too shabby.
Superstar name right there.
Oh yeah, I mean he is an absolute definition of a Sour Patch Kid. One moment sweet, next moment completely sour. It's incredible. What I've learned now having young kids of just the emotional roller coaster that you ride moment to moment, day after day. It's incredible. And I think it's certainly served me well for, going back to all the challenges that we faced just in my 2 years here as the GM of, okay, hey, what are the problems and challenges that we're facing and how can we best solve them on the fly? We may put, these grandiose plans into place, but, some of the things that we can't control don't fall into place. And whether it was our fault or not, we've got to be willing to pivot and adapt because what is the solution otherwise if we don't do that? We can, bellyache and get upset about things not working out that are out of our control. But at the end of the day, our job is to provide the best experience possible. And how do we keep doing that?
So what position did you play?
I played a little bit all over when I was in high school because I was from a very small school in Southern California. There was 150 kids in my graduating class my senior year. And so we only had 12 guys in our entire baseball program my junior and senior year. And so it was very much I started playing third base. The next year I was a first baseman. Then my senior year I pitched and played shortstop. And, I threw maybe maxed out at 72 miles an hour. I was just a heavy junk ball pitcher. And that's why I think my shoulder was so messed up and had elbow problems too. And so it was good for me, I think, to, go through what I did my freshman year of college and kind of shut things down because ultimately, even at that age, I told myself, I just want to get to a point when I do have kids and they're of age, I want to be able to play catch with them and, do those sorts and be with them on their sports and athletic journeys, given hopefully that they choose those journeys because I would love that, trying not to. It's one of those things that I'm hyper cognizant of working in baseball of I never want to force my kids to, play the same sports I did or that sort of thing. But it's also hard for me to believe that, given that he's at the ballpark almost every single day or sometimes I'll bring him into the office where we have our hitting and training facility and we'll go and just hit some balls off the tee in one of the cages and something like that. So, it's just one of those things that I think he just enjoys sharing, what my wife and I are most passionate about and love. And so always want to foster that sort of culture and feeling around it as opposed to
you gotta,
pressuring them to do something.
You can't force the passion.
Exactly.
And they got to be passionate, whatever they're passionate about. I mean, I had a middle son that was a big guy. Because I got nothing but trees around me and my family. My dad was short, so but my son's about 5'10", and he was getting, heavy. And I go, ooh, you know what? How are you thinking about football? And he looks at me and goes, you want me to injure this? All right, you're not playing football. I got it. So he ended up going into drama, which is perfect for him. But, so you just never know. I mean, yours are so young though, still that there are going to be some twists and turns all over the place.
No, for sure.
How cool is that to have him be able to ride shotgun with you doing all the stuff you do though?
Oh, absolutely. And
it's just good energy.
What I found too, especially at his age, like I said, he turns 3 next month. He just wants to be a part of everything that we're doing, right? Even if it's chores around the house or I'm cleaning the floors or the bathroom or, pulling weeds in the backyard, right? yeah, I can, keep him occupied and give him a toy to play with or a TV show to watch and get things done faster. But, if I can include him in some of those things, one, he loves just helping out and being a part of things. And yeah, it may take me 3 times as long with his help to do it, right? Because I've got to make sure he doesn't hurt himself or do things the right way. And so it's just constantly a practice of like patience and, understanding that, hey, like, ultimately, like the chore itself, however long it takes to get done or not, isn't most important. What matters is like that he's having a good time and building that connection and that bond.
On the baseball, is it a league? I mean, what league is it?
Yeah, so we play in the West Coast League. It's been around now for 25 plus years. It is a summer collegiate wood bat league, and essentially what that means is all of our players across all the teams, we have 16 teams in the league, in Oregon, Washington, and about 5 or 6 teams in Canada as well. Oh, wow. All of our players are current collegiate student athletes. You have to have collegiate eligibility remaining in order to play in our league during the summer. So no graduating seniors that are running out of eligibility after their spring seasons. And so we are a partner league with Major League Baseball, but different from the sense of the world that I came from, minor league baseball, right? Where, for example, the Eugene Emeralds, the team that I worked for, we were an affiliate most recently, and they still are, of the San Francisco Giants. And so every single player that joins and plays for the Emeralds during their season is a Giants roster member and a Giants employee. They've been drafted and signed by the San Francisco Giants and are working their way up to play in San Francisco.
You actually have had a lot of players sign in, though.
Absolutely. So it differs, right? Like that was one of the big learning curves for me, is that we put together our roster on our own and have to go out and recruit. And it's different from, collegiate program recruiting, where we're not usually going directly to individual players to get them to play for us. Most of the time, it's us reaching out to their college coaches and the heads of those programs of, hey, here's who we are as the Marion Berries. Here's the types of players that we're looking for. Here's what the experience is like. Here's what we're providing for them. Here's information about our league as a whole. And the West Coast League is very much well known throughout the country and with those college programs as one of the premier summer wood bat leagues in the country. There's about 40 or 50 of these types of leagues all throughout the country, the biggest one being the Cape Cod League, which is in the Northeast, where you play there if you're, a top 150 prospect. If you're going to be drafted in the first or second round of the MLB draft, you're playing over there for the summer. We actually have one player that played for us last year that plays at UC Santa Barbara, which is one of the best baseball programs on the West Coast. His name's Cade Goldstein. Played for us last summer. Great kid, awesome. And for the longest time, we were hoping that he would play for us this summer, and he was all in, but got a call to play in the Cape Cod League. And so, of course, it's one of those things that, like, all right, bummer, not going to play for us, but at the same time, we want what's best for our players.
Yeah, it's
too.
really important that you're a really good stepping stone for a lot of these kids and stuff, and that's really ultimately what you want for them, for you, and everybody else involved. But there's got to be kind of a nice transition when they go from from wooden bat to wooden bat. I mean, I don't know, did you play in the metal bat when you were playing, and then have to transition back to wood bat? Or,
I never played wood bat or anything like that. I wasn't nearly good enough, and like I said, I played 1 year in college, or not even a full year in college, so never got that experience. But ultimately, right, like, I recognize and we recognize that none of our players dream of winning a summer league wood bat league championship, right? Like, their goals are to, one, do as best as they can while they're in college, hopefully win a conference or national title for their programs, and also hopefully get drafted and signed, right? Our league does have 250 plus alumni in the last 25 years that have been drafted and signed by a major league organization, and a good chunk of those 250 plus have played in the major leagues as well. And so ultimately, like, our responsibility is providing a good experience for them and, giving them what they need to develop their careers, so that way when they arrive with us and by the time we send them back to their college programs, they're at a better place developmentally. Because our league, for the most part, has a lot of guys coming off their freshman and sophomore seasons in college. So a lot of guys that don't necessarily like play every single day, right? Like, they're still biding their time, waiting to be full-time starters. We even had, half a dozen kids last season on our roster that just got done playing high school ball and, hadn't played yet at college. So big learning curve for them, right? Of where you're playing 2 2 to 3 games a week in high school, and then you come to us and you're playing 6 games a week, and you're playing 3-game series, and you're traveling as far north. We go to Edmonton this year, right? Wow. And so that's a plane ride for us to get up there and play a 3-game series up there. And they play at what used to be a AAA minor league stadium that holds 9,000 people. And so what an experience for them to be able to go through that, right? And so ultimately our responsibility on the player side of things is do what we need to do to develop them. And then that goes back to our relationship and the promises that we made to their collegiate head coaches and programs, right? Like, we need to be cognizant as we're putting our roster together that, hey, if we promised this head coach at this school that their guy is going to get this many at-bats a week or this much playing time, right? Like, we need to make sure to honor that. Or if we get a pitcher that, hey, he's coming off of an injury, he can't pitch more than 20 innings for us this summer, right? No matter where we're at the standings, like, yeah, we want our team to be good and win as many games as possible. But at the end of the day, our responsibility lies in what was promised to their college coaches, what's going to ultimately help develop them further. And as we found last year, right, like, a lot of our players, once they hit those limits, whether it's a pitcher or a player and their college coach calls them back, whether or not our season is over yet, like, we've got to be willing to adapt and make changes to our roster as the same thing with adapting and adjusting on our business side. And the
I was going to say there's two sides of this equation.
So we're constantly like, okay, what's best for our players on that side of things? What's best for our partners? What's best for our fans? All of those sorts of things. Like, by no means is anything for us really like set in stone. It's always just like what we're always looking at ways to improve. And, always, I think one of the things I repeat to our staff all the time is like, hey, adapt or die, which is a quote from, the movie Moneyball of like, things are always changing, especially in this day and age, so fast. And, we've got to be willing to pivot at a moment's notice, regardless of what it is about our operation.
No, I dig baseball, so it's like...
And I like how it's an entertainment. You're going for the entertainment, too.
Oh, yeah.
And there's something for everybody, like all ages.
Yeah, I mean, that's my bread and butter. That's the world that I came from, right? Yeah. Like, with the Emeralds, my most enjoyable, position that I held there was I was our director of sponsorship and promotions. Oh, cool. And so being in charge of all our entire marketing and promotional calendar and getting to come up with, hey, let's do Star Wars nights and superhero nights and what are specialty jersey nights that we can do. This one year we did in 2016, I think it was, we did a Portlandia night because the show was big at the time. And we created not only custom jersey tops, but we were also, to my knowledge, the first minor league team that also had custom pants to go with it. So the jersey itself was a red flannel jersey top and then screen printed jean pants for it.
Oh, wow.
The players absolutely hated it, but the fans got a huge kick out of it. And so one of those things, right, of like, what's something unique and different that we can do? We're always looking to take risks in that end, right? And same thing with the Marion Berries here. Like, what are different things that, maybe quirky and different, but at the same time, again, like, are entertaining and fun and, cater to kids and families, because that's what we're all about here, is right. Well, how do we bring more people into the baseball world?
I'll tell you that, if they weren't up for the Portlandia thing, they're definitely not going to be up for any kind of a Scottish night.
Right.
By the way, guys, you're going to have to wear kilts tonight.
Might be a little tough sliding, especially. It's one thing, I guess, to slide on dirt. We now have turf at Chemeketa, but nonetheless, you still got to be worried about turf.
How is the field looking?
It looks phenomenal. I mean, especially for folks that maybe didn't come out to a Berries game last season, and your only experience of seeing Chemeketa was what it looked like before we ever came in, right? And again, no disrespect to Chemeketa, but it was very much just a baseball field. And I think with the renovations that have gone in now, it's very much like a ballpark. It's a stadium. Cool. With the turf going in, right, not only is that great for us during the summer, but it's great for the Chemeketa baseball program and just for the college as a whole, being able to utilize that space for more and more events 12 months out of the year, right? Now those types of things are possible. New LED lights or light poles, because we had the LED lights last season. New sound system to go along with it. We went in and poured a bunch of concrete to create actual walkways and ADA accessible points all through throughout the ballpark. And what I'm most excited for is we have like 8 times the power available to us and electrical available to us. So that way we can build out more concession stands and more bars.
Yeah,
and
you
that
guys
sort
said
of
you had
thing.
some issues with the electrical last year.
Yeah, because again, we were doing all of our concessions in house, so we bought all of this equipment with the eye that we were going to be at this one ballpark, and then had to pivot at the next moment. And I remember, I think it was like a game or 2 into our season last summer, and I was doing just a stadium walkthrough with the electrical guy at Shemeketa, and he didn't say it directly to me in as many words, but essentially seemed pretty shocked that we didn't have like a electrical shortage or a small fire.
Yeah, he's got like 9 extension cords running into the building on the backside.
Exactly. And so, we had to pull like additional power from the softball stadium next door, put them into spider boxes so we can get, all of our warmers and ovens and everything plugged in properly. I joke with my staff that I got like a minor degree in electrical work last season, just because now I know of okay, this piece of equipment is now this many amps and it needs this specific extension cord to go into it. And I can't just plug in an oven and a warmer and a nacho cheese warmer into a 3-way plug that goes into one outlet, right?
Yeah.
All of those sorts of things, right? That again, going back to pivoting and adjusting on the fly, I don't mind admitting what I don't know and what I do know, right?
Well, what's nice though is you have the opportunity. You've got to really grow your knowledge in a lot of different areas too. I mean, being business owners, it's just that's it right there in a nutshell. You're like, what are you doing today? Nothing near what I did yesterday. It's like today I'm dealing with an oven, tomorrow I'm dealing, so
yeah. And I
think
think sometimes when people hear oh, you're the general manager of a baseball team, that's got to be fun. I'm like,
prestigious.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. It's or glamorous, right?
Glamorous,
That oh, I'm I get to watch the games and do all these things with the players and that sort of thing. Which I do get to do those things at times, but on any given game day, I'm making sure the players' uniforms and they have everything they need for the game. If our oven at the concession stand goes out, I've got to handle that problem and figure out. If our sound system goes out and the speakers are no longer working, I've got to figure that piece out, right?
Got to wear a lot of hats.
Exactly. And so again, going back to knowing what I know and knowing what I don't know, most of my job is just finding the folks that are experts in their field or a different department of our operation and giving them the keys to make the best decisions possible, right? Especially for instance on our live stream, which is we broadcast every single game through our YouTube channel. We received rave reviews from the West Coast League as a whole and from fans in general on the production quality of that. And I wish that was something that I could take credit for, but it was just something that we found a great producer that knows what he's doing. And for me, it was very hands off of, and similar things in other departments of hey, I'll know that if I don't have any questions or complaints or problems that I hear from you on that side of thing, that's a win for me, right? That means I can focus on the things that I know how to do, and it's the marketing and the promotions and it's the game day atmosphere and everything like that, because that's the world that I grew up in my baseball career. My wife and I moved to the Salem area in the fall of 2022, and I was working for the same company she was working for the first 1.5, 2 years that we moved here before I took this opportunity. So I knew some people in Salem and, some folks from the community, but a lot of times, my first meeting with a potential sponsor was the first time I was meeting them, right? And so kudos to all of them, especially through all the changes that we went through. We had about 34, 35 different sponsors our first season, ranging from as low as $500 to $54,000, right? Depending on what the organization was and their level of investment. And, they largely signed on because they trusted what our staff, that we were all going to back up what we promised, right? And we made sure once we knew that we were going to have to pivot stadiums and locations that I reached out to each of our partners individually before we ever announced it publicly of hey, this is what's happening. We gave them the option of we understand if this isn't what we've been talking about for the last 9 months. So if you're not comfortable going on this journey with us, no harm, no foul, we will return your investment and move forward. We'd love to keep you in the fold. And all of our sponsors but one backed out. And it was mostly because of the location change, right? Of like, we moved 20 minutes north to Northeast Salem, and that particular business was right around downtown Salem. And so, you know, it didn't make sense for them. And then lo and behold, after the season we had, we got that business back on as a sponsor going into this season, right? And so it was just one of those things that, like, I'm always going to lead with honesty and transparency about where we're at and what we're doing, and, you know, just bring exciting things to Salem, and wanting partners that, you know, want to share that dream and vision with us. Because I think there's a very large appetite for this type of thing in Salem. But, you know, we had a lot of folks would talk about, like, the arena football team that we had that came through a couple of years ago that, like, up and left after 2 or 3 games, right? And that left a bad taste in a lot of folks' mouths around the community, right? And so while there was a lot of excitement about what we were bringing to the table potentially, there was also a lot of, like, trepidation over, like, all right, another new sports team coming to Salem. Let's see how they're talking a big game. Let's see if they're able to back it up. And then I think for me, that was, like, the most stressful piece of the stadium change, was, like, I didn't want people to feel like, oh no, here we go again, like another sports team in Salem having trouble, like that sort of thing, right? Or not going to back up what they promised, sort of thing. But, you know, kudos to all the partners that we work with, all the fans that showed up, because we had 22% of our games were sold out last season. We made the playoffs in our first season, which we were just the second team in their debut season in West Coast League history, right? 25 plus years of West Coast League history to make the playoffs in our first season. Wow. And we had over 2,000 people attend that playoff game. And that was, you know, we clinched that playoff spot with 6 days left in the season. So we had less than a week to promote that playoff game. And in my time at this level of baseball and in minor league baseball, it's tough to get the word out and get folks out for playoff games, because you spend your season, like, focused so much on the entertainment, the experience, the theme nights, right? Everything but the baseball specifically. And to have that sort of response, like, from the community for our playoff game. Unfortunately, we weren't able to win. We lost that game to the Portland Pickles in a tough 4-3 game that they scored in the 9th inning to just barely clip us at the end. But, like, it was so cool to see that and have that response and have such a packed crowd. You know, and I think that's what makes all of us with the Berries so excited for this upcoming season. Of, like, we saw our attendance slowly rise over the course of the summer. And now I think with all of these changes that are going in, everything that we experienced in the first season, like, sky's the limit for us.
It's a tornado.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, never a dull day. And, you know, especially in my world with, you know, the baseball side of things. And then when I get home, it's dad duty. And, you know, I'm immediately thrust into that sort of thing. Like, if my eyes are open, I'm on. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the only break I get is when my eyes are closed. And even those moments are few and far in between these days.
No, especially
it takes
with new
about
baby.
20 years.
Yeah, that's what I'm learning.
20 years of work.
Yeah, I'll have a lot of my friends from Southern California where I grew up. Most of them, for the most part, haven't had their own kids yet, and they'll ask me what it's like or how are you balancing it all? And I'm like, I'm not balancing it all. I'm tired and exhausted all of the time. Like, I'm doing the best I can, but by no means.
Every day we're winging it.
Yeah,
every day.
By no means do I feel like I have any sort of work-life family balance, right? Like, I'm doing what I can to prioritize the things that are important. But
And then you got the players to deal with.
yeah.
And they have all their lives. That's like having a bunch of employees, really.
Absolutely.
So they all have their own thing going on in life, and then they all comes together. It's sort of, difficult sometimes.
But you have the farm, and that's really where your guys' central, that's where everything comes out of, you know, that you do. The farm is also, you guys have batting and pitching cages and stuff like that inside of there too.
Yeah.
Tell us a little about that.
Absolutely. So the farm is where we have our offices, and like you mentioned, our hitting and training facility. It's an 11,000 square foot space where we've put turf down and have 10 individual cages in there, you know, private lessons available. We also run the Berries Academy. So we have 13 teams from the 10U to the 18U level that all play under the Berries umbrella.
Very cool.
We have a big partner in Marucci Sports with that, provide a bunch of gear and uniforms and everything like that for those teams. And it was just one of those things that originally when I took the job as the GM of the Berries, or at the time it was Salem Baseball Club before we named the team and everything like that wasn't really a part of our plans. I just told our owner of like, hey, eventually I'm going to need an office because we're going to, have staff working for us, and we'd like to create some sort of home where we can all be under the same roof and plan things and, make our sales calls and those sorts of things. But we thought bigger of like, okay, hey, our season is only 2.5 months long, right, over the course of the summer. We start in late May and we finish in early to mid-August, right? So how can we solve the need in our community 12 months out of the year of Salem as a whole needing more turf spaces, more indoor spaces in the baseball and softball community specifically? And so this place became available. It's our office. The farm is right off of Pringle Road in McGilchrist there. And so it used to be a 7-Up bottling plant. And so we went in and took that space and, like I said, put turf down and all the netting and cages up. And
That looks really nice.
yeah, it's an awesome space, and it's another big learning curve for me because I've never ran a academy. I've never ran a batting or hitting facility.
Well, you came from Southern California where 24, all year round. You got
yeah,
outdoor
exactly.
Sports. And you come up here and it's like, what do you mean there's no sports for like another 6 months?
Oh yeah, I remember distinctly in high school, right? We had our fall and winter ball program at our high school, and we're playing outdoors, right around Christmas time, and it's 65 and sunny, and it's not an issue. That was another big learning curve for me of moving to Oregon in general. All right, I need to take like 3 times the recommended dosage of vitamin D in the fall and winter because I was waking up. I was like, am I depressed, or is it just because I haven't seen the sun for 2 weeks?
You're looking at these galoshes with cleats on the bottom.
Rust.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Exactly. Like I noticed I feel a lot better in the spring and summer when the sun is out. But yeah, we have a great academy director. His name's Cole Stringer. He played at the University of Oregon and played a handful of years in the Colorado Rockies organization that he kind of heads up that side of our operation. He's great for me to have as a resource, especially when it comes to managing our players and coaches on the summer collegiate side of things during our summer of just, again, going back to finding people that are experts in their department and their areas of our operation, and how do I give them the tools and resources to be able to do their jobs effectively?
Yeah.
Because I know what I'm good at and I know what I'm not good at, and how do I fill those gaps, right? And don't want to be somebody that I'm not or pretend that I have all the answers, right? Like in this business specifically, I've got to lean on all the folks that are under our Berries umbrella, that they're going to do the job to the best of their abilities and do it in the way that us as the Marion Berries want to do things, right?
I love how you guys have incorporated the berry, the patch, the farm, all the different things you guys do really go underneath that umbrella. And so I think you've done an exceptional job with that.
Appreciate that.
The players, how do you house the players?
So we have host families. We try and recruit as many local kids as we can, right? Like there are plenty of talented players that have come out of Salem area high schools that are now playing at the collegiate level, right? And so we had about 6 or 7 players that graduated from Salem area high schools last season on our roster. Andrew Moon is a big name that comes to mind. He plays at Loyola Marymount in Southern California, which is a very big baseball program down there. He played at Sprague High School just a few years ago, right? And so it's just a unique opportunity for us of going back to wanting to be the community team here in Salem and wanting to be role models for our youth here. What better way to do that than having kids that played in Salem and grew up in Salem, right? How cool would it be if some of those guys go on to get drafted and signed by a major league team, and we get to celebrate them as not only former Berries, but guys coming from Salem, right? That was one of the things when I was in Eugene with the Emeralds we were always hoping our major league affiliate, because we were a Padres affiliate and then a Cubs affiliate, now a Giants affiliate. We were always hoping that gosh, it would be so cool if our major league affiliate would draft like even a Oregon State Beaver or Oregon Duck, right? So we get to like showcase that to the local community here in Oregon. And for the most part, never really got that opportunity because you're not in control of your roster and that sort of thing. We have a unique opportunity where we do control our roster. And so, trying to find as many of those examples as possible because we cater so much to kids and families and youth right in the area that's one of our big focuses when we're putting our roster together of like, yeah, oh, look, this guy's playing for the Marion Berries, like could get drafted and signed by a major league team, and he just played at Sprague or South Salem or West,
Yeah,
right?
cool is
Like,
that?
how cool of a connection is that to build and just make those types of dreams and goals more tangible for everybody?
As far as the team goes, coaches and managers and things like that, what does that nucleus look like? I mean, how many do you have in play?
We have 4 coaches total on our coaching staff. Our head coach, his name is Tucker Brock. He is longtime coach at North Marion High School, and now the athletic director at North Marion High School. Also coached previously at the University of Portland, and actually way back in the day also coached at Chemeketa. So it was actually a nice, full circle moment for him when we made the pivot back to Chemeketa. And I know he's been blown away by all the changes that went into the ballpark, right, from his time. When he was a coach at Chemeketa. So he's great. I mean, it's great to have somebody that, again, he's an expert on the baseball side of things. I don't tell him what to do when it comes to like practicing or developing with the guys. He's the one communicating directly with their college head coaches and creating plans for them, but also very respectful and understanding of what we're doing as a business and as a community organization of like, hey, yeah, before this game, Tucker, I'm going to have this, softball game, this charity softball game that's raising money for this organization. So we've got to move our batting practice times up for the guys, and they've got to switch up their routines a little bit. Like, okay, that makes sense. Here's how we can make it work, right? Like very much in lockstep with one another of like that respect of, hey, yes, we want what's best for the players, and Tucker's always going to go to bat for what's best for the players, but also understanding that there is this business and fan experience side of things that we're also trying to put our best foot forward in, right? And so, yeah, at times we'll butt heads about certain things. I remember a game last year that we were getting like some pretty heavy rain in the middle of the game, and he wanted to call it, but I was like, Tucker, we've got like a sold-out crowd here, like, let's delay things for 20 minutes, and sure enough, the rain went by, but, that was before we had turf in, right? So the field's getting a little bit slick. Like we're at that time making a playoff push and looking ahead. I think we maybe had already clinched a playoff spot. So he's just looking out of like the health and safety of the players, right? And so just one of those things where, hey, like, yeah, we may be on opposite sides of the coin when it comes to those sorts of moments, but how do we come together, right, and make the best solution possible for both sides of things? So can't say enough good things about Tucker. He's awesome. Yeah, and our entire coaching staff is just great to work with. Very much again in lockstep with one another of like what the goals are for the organization, what the goals are for the players, and what the goals are for the business side of things as well.
So in your GM position, 2 years now, 4 years?
2 years.
2 years. What has been the biggest challenge for you?
I mean, it was just that whole stadium situation. I think what was so challenging to me going into that first season when we made the decision to pivot was, again, I've got a lot of great colleagues who are now GMs with other teams, and they were great as far as like if I had questions about certain things, I could pick their brains on how they did things, right? But for the most part, like making calls around of like, hey, have you ever had to like change your stadium a month before your season started? Well, that was like, oh, no, you haven't? I'm out on an island? All right. So again, it was just those things of like, okay, I'm going to do things to the best of my ability and how I think things work best, and keep the staff like as even keel and level-headed throughout this entire process. And between all of us here and everybody listening, like I thought everybody on my staff was going to quit after our first season of just like, we were playing every single day pretty much, and that's 8, 10, 12-hour days for all of us on any given home day. We're coming home after midnight after home games and then waking up and showing up to the ballpark at 9, 10, 11 in the morning to get ready for the next one the next day. And so, and all of my staff for the most part, that was also their first go round working in the baseball industry, right? Like we had a lot of folks that had experience in other sports, in basketball, or our concessions manager in the restaurant industry and that sort of thing. So, used to fast-paced environments, but I don't think used to what we went through last season. And so I was very cognizant of like not burning the staff out and, making them feel overwhelmed and trying to put on this brave face. But that was probably the biggest challenge for me amidst the whole stadium pivot situation. And, probably the most emotional moment for me was when we had our opening night, right? Like we're about 30 minutes away from our entrance gates opening, and I'm going around checking on everything, and I'm like, okay, I think we're going to make it. Like everything seems to be at least like functioning and operational. We're going to have a game. There's going to be a pitch thrown. There's going to be music. There's going to be food. And then, at that time, I also saw like a line forming outside of the gates, right? Because another thing was like I was worried of, okay, we marketed this stadium in this location for 10 months, and now we only had 4 weeks to market this new stadium. And being a brand new team where folks weren't familiar with us for the most part, like we're going to do all these things and put all this work in, but are people going to show up? And lo and behold, gates open, and by first pitch, we had a sold-out crowd for that opening night. And I immediately, like, I can feel myself getting emotional about it now, of like, I went up to our rooftop just to like take it all in when the first inning was going on, and like I just started like bawling my eyes out, just because like it was just this flood of emotion of like, you're stressing out, you want to do the best you can, you feel like all of these things are happening that are out of your control that seem to work against you, and then to have the community buy-in and that many people show up was just, it was such an awesome experience to go through that. And then, we count that win and we had a good time, and then boom, we're getting ready for a game the very next day, right? And so it was super challenging, but also probably the most rewarding moment of my career, I would say, because certainly feeling like, okay, we built this thing from the ground up. It didn't go nearly as we planned it initially, but we still made, great things happen our first season.
So I've got some rapid fire questions. Guilty pleasure.
Reality shows. Right now, my wife and I are totally deep into Temptation Island on Netflix. That's been something we've watched for a while.
It's addictive.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's just one of those things that, like, I think my wife and I get a kick out of at the end of the day, right? Like, I certainly wasn't a big reality show fan before I met my wife, but and she still watches way more than I have the appetite for, but just that sort of television.
So even though it may be 17 years from now, where's your next vacation going to be?
It'll be to Cabo San Lucas in Mexico, which is where my wife and I had our honeymoon, and we've talked about it now, having 2 kids and everything, of like, we want to go back. We're big, like, all-inclusive resort people.
Wait,
like,
with the kids?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely
And wouldn't
not.
that coincide
making
with
sure.
your schedules too? Because like their summer is different from ours. So
A little bit, yeah. We've a lot of times we'll take a vacation in like the October time frame, which sometimes can be hit or miss, going somewhere tropical and everything, but we've had good luck.
Podcasts or music? When you got time to listen to anything.
Podcasts, always.
What type of podcast?
Always. I'm a big sports podcast guy, but also like audiobooks. So I always say, like, I don't read books, I absorb them because I'm listening to them on audiobooks.
How many people stop you during your day? Because, you're wearing the Berry stuff and all that. How many people stop you and recognize that, or recognize you, or any of that? Do you get that yet?
Oh yeah, I mean, pretty much every time when I'm out and about, I try and wear the gear as much as possible every single day, because I just want to keep getting our name out there. But it's also just one of those things that I think fill my emotional bucket in a way of like, okay, we are like starting to get noticed, right? And more people know about us, and it's one of those things that I love talking about the team and what we're doing. And so as many of those face-to-face interactions that I can have, like, the better.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee. I run on coffee.
Favorite color?
Powder blue. I'm a Charger fan.
Oh,
God.
stop there. Oh, really?
Oh,
The
yeah.
Chargers?
Oh, yeah. Born and raised in Southern California.
Yeah, I know.
My son's a Chargers fan, and I'm a Seahawks fan. It's so tough.
That
But
team
still.
broke my heart so many times growing up, because we
Yeah.
had the Phillip Rivers and LT days and Antonio Gates, and we were supposed to win a Super Bowl when I was younger, and it didn't happen. And I feel like I've been chasing that high ever since now as an adult.
Favorite baseball player? I want a hitter and a pitcher.
Okay, I grew up a big Angels fan, so obviously anybody from the 2000 2002 team that won the World Series. Guys like Darren Erstad, David Eckstein, Tim Salmon, Garrett Anderson, all those guys. But I was a big Derek Jeter kid when I was younger. So that was probably my all-time favorite player as a kid growing up. Pitching-wise, man, I'm going to have to say Trevor Hoffman. Yeah, closer back in the day for the San Diego Padres. Just because, like, his whole entrance as a closer going in with Hell's Bells, like, the fact that he was striking, like, you knew what he was throwing. It was a changeup most of the time, and nobody could really hit it. But, yeah, that was probably favorite hitter and pitcher, yeah.
So if you had a superpower, what would it be?
Teleportation. Easily.
That's a good one. I like that.
It's unlimited possibilities in terms of, like, oh, if I want like some good pasta for lunch, I'm gonna go to Rome and have some pasta, right? Like then it doesn't matter where I live. I could find, somewhere in the middle of nowhere that is a nice house, and I just teleport. Don't have to worry about commute ever. My wife's family is from Colorado, and my family's in Southern California, so boom, I could pop in, like go back and forth without having to worry about, airfare or traveling.
You can
and all
teleport
that sort of
back to change.
Yeah.
So you don't even have to take clothes with you.
Exactly.
Just go back and forth. So who's a hero in your life?
I would say my parents, which I know is a standard answer. My parents were both born and raised in Poland and immigrated to the U.S. when I think my mom was 18 when she did, and my dad a similar age as well. And so just seeing all of the work that they put in to, immigrate here, build a life here, and just set me up for the best life possible. I can't even imagine what they went through at the time, going through all those processes and learning a new language and finding your way in a foreign country. So certainly my parents and my wife, of course. I mentioned her before.
Can you speak the language then?
I spoke it better when I was younger. It was actually my first language, and then my parents shipped me off to Poland for my entire summer break when I was in school, from like ages 5 to 16, basically. I haven't been now since I was about 19 or 20 years old, so I could still certainly, if you drop me off there, I could get around and order food and get directions, those sorts of things. But it's one of those things that it's hard for me to, like, because I've got grandparents out there and cousins. It's hard for me to have like deeper level conversations such as this in Polish, but like I could talk to a third grader in Poland just fine for the most
There you
part.
go. I like the comparison.
Yeah.
I love that. Are you an animal person?
Yeah, got a dog. Not so much a cat person, but we have a dog. His name's Moose. That we got from a humane society in Eugene. His world's been turned upside down since we had 2 kids after getting him, but I've always been a big dog person.
It's either got to be a big dog or a really small dog.
He's kind of in between. He's
Really?
like a 65, 70-pound dog. He's a Border Collie, Lab, and Aussie mix.
Okay,
So,
That's quite a combination.
That's not a real
big
small
bundle
dog,
of energy. And, we got the dog initially to help with our own stress and anxiety, and he's probably 10 times as anxious as we are. But it's great. Like, he's great with the kids. He's kind of, we joke, he's the neighborhood watch on our block because anything that moves, he barks at, and, he's just protecting his family and his people. But then you take him to the dog park off leash, and he's the world's sweetest dog and saying hi to everybody. And it's been really fun to see him with our youngest now. Of like, I think for him, our oldest was such a shock to him that he was very much like, never did anything bad or with him or too rough with him or anything like that, but certainly kept his distance, didn't really approach. And since we had our second, who's a girl, our daughter, Parker, even the first week we brought her back, like, we would have her sleep in like the lounger on the couch that we had for her, and he'd come by and like lay his head on her chest as they were both sleeping, and much more affectionate too. She's like enamored with him now. Like, you can catch her like absolutely honed in and focused on him and reaching for his face, and he'll come by, lick her face back, and that's something like he never did with our first. So it's been really rewarding to watch those relationships play out too.
You have any nicknames?
Everyone always jokes with Pat Zajac, right? The connection to the Wheel of Fortune host and everything like that. We actually had a promotion from my days in Eugene, because obviously my boss at the time loved the connection. And so one year we had a Wheel of Fortune between inning game that we did where I would dress up, take a contestant on top of our dugout roof. I had like an old school blazer on and a microphone, and I'd do like the final Wheel of Fortune, solve the puzzle sort of thing. With
Your
them.
favorite game growing up, probably Hangman.
Yeah. So I would get I think maybe one year playing baseball, my nickname was Vanna White, is that connection, or, people crack jokes like buy a vowel, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But no real,
I imagine.
any other nicknames.
I just know
going on.
baseball, being in that dugout.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's they can be rough there, but at the same time, that's all that's not camaraderie and
for
stuff.
sure.
So,
Terms of endearment.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, actually, I don't got anything else for you. I'm looking forward to the season.
Yeah.
And I can't wait. I was like, do you have anything else that you're going to ask
No, I
and
can't.
stuff?
I want to go see a game. Gone to the Knights games, Corvallis Knights, and OSU games. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, we've got I think 3 current Beavers on our roster going into
cool.
this season. So we'll see when they arrive officially to Salem, because obviously they're hoping to make a deep postseason run. So if all goes well for them, we might not see them until late June, early July. But nonetheless, we have a great relationship with Mitch Canham, their head coach, and everything. And so we had 3 Oregon State Beavers on our roster last year that Sam Hubbard is playing for Bryce Hubbard, not Sam Hubbard. Paul Vasquez, who's their starting third baseman now. So great relationship with them, and I love the Corvallis Knights too. They're a great operation.
Yeah,
one of the premier teams in the West Coast League for sure.
It's a big family. All within the baseball community. It's a different energy.
Absolutely. It's incredible, just how many connections I've been able to make in my lifetime just being involved with baseball as long as I have. All of my best friends growing up, all the groomsmen at my wedding, all of these colleagues that I have that are now all throughout the country are, for the most part, connected through baseball in some form or fashion, right? And so that's, I think, obviously I love the sport of baseball, but I also love everything that it's given to me and provided for me outside of the sport itself, and all these relationships that I've been fortunate to build throughout my time.
The batting cages that were built a couple of years ago down in Albany is right next to my shop, and that place is packed all the time.
Oh, yeah.
All the time. And the technology, the digital technology, the screen, and showing a pitcher winding up, and all of a sudden a ball shoots out at you.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
I love that. It's crazy.
Yeah, we have a hit track system in our hitting and training facility, which I didn't know too much about this sort of thing, but it'll track how fast your bat speed was, the exit velocity on the ball. It'll track the how many rotations a baseball made from the time it left the pitcher's hand until it hits the catcher's
crazy.
glove. It's incredible the amount of technology and statistics that are available.
Blown away by
nowadays.
that. You can see it all. I was like, what is that?
What's the fastest pitch you've ever faced live?
Live would probably be my freshman year of high school. We were playing in the quarterfinals of our regional playoffs. We played a school called Pasadena Poly, who had a senior pitcher at the time named Rob Rasmussen, who was he was drafted by the Dodgers his senior year out of high school, but was also a UCLA commit. Ended up playing on their national title winning team in the late 2010 or early 2010s. I can't remember what year it was. But that was for me as a 15-year-old freshman facing a guy that was throwing 93 miles an hour with a 90-mile-an-hour slider. I was like, I haven't seen... And I played at a really small school, right? It was at a lower-level division there. And so that was for the first time seeing that. He no-hit us, and we lost that game 1-0 on an error that went through our second baseman's legs with a runner on third and 2 outs. So that was a tough loss for us and always a memory I'll hold. But
this is a baseball player right here.
But then Rob Rasmussen...
You're it was 72 degrees outside. The sun was in the wrong angle.
I'll never forget it. But he ended up, like I said, playing at UCLA. He ended up being, I think, a second or third round draft choice of the LA Dodgers out of UCLA, and then ended up playing, didn't have too long of a professional career, but he even played for the Angels for a season as well. Awesome. And so that was
and you love
cool
to hear that. I mean, you really love to hear that. I just think it's funny because statistics and all that kind of stuff, they come out of nowhere for me. I absorb stuff too. I can't find a ketchup in the fridge, but you know what? I can get these statistical, things from everywhere, and so I
I'm
get a kick out
amazed
of
at your
that.
memory of
it's
memorizing
great.
these people's names, not just their first name, but their last name.
Oh,
And from your
absolutely.
freshman year.
Oh
what-
yeah, absolutely. It's like a
And the
core
stats.
memory. It was like I would probably, you could see like my legs shaking when I was sitting in the batter's box, because again, like I'd never seen anything like that. I never even, when I'm 15 years old, I've never seen a slider before. Like to see
Yeah.
that and coming at 90 miles an hour at the time.
There's a lot of crazy pitches now. I mean, I've seen some of the way that the circle pitch. I mean, there's just all these just random stuff now. I'm like, you know, they're like a version of this. Like the basically the core of this pitch is this, but now there's a smaller version. The slur, I have something. What is it called? A slurry?
Slurve.
A slurve, yeah.
Slurve, you got a sweeper, yeah, all like variations of a curveball and a slider put together depending on how far it's breaking vertically versus horizontally.
Yeah.
And obviously the biggest change has been just velocity across the board, right? Like you look at a major league team nowadays and every guy in the rotation and coming out of the bullpen is throwing 95 mile an hour plus, and at a younger and younger age in college and high school, like all of these guys are now throwing 90, 93 plus, which is like, I don't want to say a bummer to me as a baseball purist, right? But I also love like the guys like Greg Maddux and, you know, pitchers back in the day that could beat you when they were throwing only 88 miles an hour. Guys like
Maddux
Jamie
was
Moyer,
he was a
right?
witch.
That was actually like could locate certain pitches and sequence all of their pitches in the right way to keep batters off their toes. And now a lot of times it's just like, hey, I'm throwing 98 and I'm just looking to blow it right by you, right? And so,
Yeah, but even at 95 or lower, you have to have movement on your pitches.
oh yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
And
Like,
that's crazy to hear.
yeah, absolutely. Nothing is going straight anymore either. You've got your two-seam fastballs, your cutters, and even, you know, you're seeing sliders and sweepers in the high 80s and low 90s. You know, you got Mason Miller pitching for the San Diego Padres now, who's throwing like 103, 104 consistently with a slider in the upper 90s. And I think he's striking out guys at like an 85% clip or something like that, which is just, these are the best players in the world, and he's making them look like he's pitching to junior high kids. Like,
Wow.
it's unbelievable the level of talent, and certainly, like I said, all the velocity and movement you see in the big leagues. I don't think people appreciate as much just how hard it is to get a hit off of a major league pitcher these days.
Hey, take me to a softball park and try to get that ball to hit. God. No, it's that's pretty cool.
Do you
Yeah.
golf?
I would love to golf more. I've maybe played 2 or 3 rounds since my oldest was born 3 years ago. But certainly, like before that time, I was fortunate enough to be a member at a semi-private, you know, club down in Eugene, and so one of those things that I'm hoping to get back into more consistently.
I asked that because a couple of years ago I started taking golf lessons with Crystal. My wife was a diehard softball player all her life, and she had the hardest time to swing because she would lift the leg like you're batting, and she'd have the hardest time.
Oh, it took me a
transferring
while to
toe.
learn, especially like the grip changes, your hand positioning, and
Yeah, yeah.
obviously like I think the biggest learning curve for me of being a baseball guy my whole life was like learning and understanding that, okay, I don't have to swing for the fences in golf every single time.
Right.
Like there is the nuance and the control piece when it comes to golf.
Yeah.
And something that I think just for my own personal development, I've always enjoyed like getting better at and working on different parts, because it's just the ultimate game where it's just you against yourself out there. And
Yeah.
I think like early on I would get like frustrated thinking that I should be better given my like baseball and athletic background, and it wasn't clicking. And I remember getting frustrated on a course with a good buddy of mine, and he's like, hey, you know something, like you're not good enough to get like this upset, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also at the end of the day, like especially now having kids and the few times I get to play golf, of like, all right, like I'm going to be out here for 3 to 4 hours to play around. I'm going to have a good time no matter what. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and understand that ultimately at the end of the day, no one cares about my score but me.
Right? I'm happy Gilmore player. I really am.
Well, I'm gonna get you out of here. You're busy,
I know, I got to get to the stadium. see
you
how
know.
it's
But I
coming-
really appreciate you
coming
taking the
shape.
time
Yeah,
to
it's
come
great.
by.
Of course.